We'll go ahead and get started here. I'm going to give you another 3 minutes. We'll go ahead and get started here in 3 minutes. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon. Yat shikeshid neshel tahasilo kwahonoslonigi. Ado we're going to go ahead and get started here with the Child Growth and Development series. Today I'm going to go ahead and have you guys sign in for me through this QR code here. Go ahead and scan it. And also I will put it also in the chat box, the link to where you can sign in. She ya chajinde gisinasha. Akonde itsellige kest. Ako kia anin slot ho hedlini bashin totsoni dashe. Belagan dashanale. Ado ya Diné College ki kwaige inashnish. Ado ya Student Affairs oliego konab nashnish. Student Mental Health Wellness Program ekona nashnish. Student Mental Health Coordinator in Tsaile. Akut aya ni hije da this shikeshid na. De hat I so gizigido in da ekwaike in kilta honoslonigi ildo. Ako DJ ye ya anosel je ekwaike ba hannet dolel. Al Tehnijah Jake no selen lenigi je ekwaike ba hannet dolel. Al-Tseda al-Hi Krayeta je kwaike o tsage kwaike badahwil nende ado nda ya bekego neje ajchi genana akot badahwil ne o ukot al-Ke holjish ako le iltsa do ado ajchi ado kwae no selgi je kwae could ya badahwil ne. Ako ya teaching ben yeho akiche al Tehnijah ado nda ile no saligi al ke khona je betis belkhahdane do nda ikoj bejedo ben sakes ado nda ino sel je could je ye al ke khona je al ke holjish Le al-Tehnijah to le zilke to jike yilleche jokot aje dolel. Ado nda ibke go na le khana ashije ibkha na je ade ya ashi ketzilke gije ade okot abjish to bjizye ade banahanne akonna dolel. Ado nda ya chikegi je ade kenasta je ade okot nana banahanne dolel je okot ako ye hot ade hata iso kizigido ado ka engilta honoslonigi lo again hidadishnil. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Travis Teller. I'm the Student Mental Health Coordinator here with Diné College. I am Tower House, born for water flowing together. My maternal grandparents are of the Big Water people. My maternal grandparents are of the Big Water people. My paternal grandparents are of the Irish. I'm originally from a place called Black Rock, Arizona, and I reside here at Tsaile. And I've been working with Diné College now for the past 9 months. So here we have a human growth and development series going on. We are at the stages of where we are going to present on child growth and development. In the previous presentations, we have already talked about prenatal stages, and then we have already talked about birth. So today we're going to focus in on child growth and development, all the way to puberty. So we'll go ahead and turn it over here to our presenters. I do have some individuals that are going to be joining us today, and I'll go ahead and do a brief introduction. Go ahead and sign in for me first here on the screen. There is a QR code there, and if you can't sign in, I'll go ahead and post a link in the chat box. Okay, we'll go ahead and bring up our presenter here today. Thank you very much for joining us from Tsaile Counseling Services, Tehnijah Jake. I'll go ahead and have her introduce herself.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Tehnijah Jake, but you guys can call me TJ. I am a licensed clinical social worker and was invited by Travis to help in presenting human development. So we're kind of going to go a little off course here, but that's perfectly fine. We're going to be presenting on ACEs and how that has implications on our growth and development. So I am accompanied by my colleague here. Tehnijah Jake, Ginishia Glaschin, Nishlin, Kia Ani, Bashchi, Tobaha Dashachedo, Ashihan Dashadala.
Yad Shay Yad Tavia Nishia, Ado the Nishla Madish Gish Nishla, Pipitoni Bashichin, Tkachini Dashchedo, Kanani Dashinella, Ado Shay, Chili that Nashado, I see that Shiahola. I am a master level social worker, so just brief background of me. I received my BSW and MSW from Arizona State University. And as TJ had mentioned, we'll be going over ACEs and then also some development stages. Thank you.
Alrighty, so we will get started because we have limited time. I don't know how to control this, Travis, in the PowerPoint. All right, so we are going to start right away, but welcome you guys and thank you so much for joining us. I think I'm getting in the way. All right, so Tavia's question is, and please join in the chat and also here in the room. How many of you know what ACEs are by raise of hands? We've got one person in our live audience here. Who in the chat knows what ACEs are? Hello? Oh, wait. Okay, hold on. It's blurred out the back. I'm sorry, you guys. Is the PowerPoint on the link or in the... All right. So we'll just tell you what ACEs are. And I'll hand this over to Tavia, and I'll jump in every now and again. Okay. Is the PowerPoint there or no?
It's on the second screen.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So that's fine. Okay. So for ACEs, so ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experience. And when we take our kiddos to the pediatrician, they normally ask a lot of questions, correct? Do you feel safe in the home? Is there any form of neglect, abuse? They ask those multiple questions to the kiddos, right? So that's where, in the hospital setting, they're collecting information, data, to ensure safety of the kids. So adverse childhood experience is a traumatic event that occurs from childhood 0 to 17. It's a form of where kids are experiencing abuse, neglect, whether there is violence in the household or within the community. And it also asks questions whether if the family household, if there was any suicide attempts or anybody that had died from suicide. So along with this, it also incurs as far as if there's any substance use, whether that's alcohol, whether that's drugs, any other mental health problems, such as depression, anxiety, whatever it may be. And then also if there's any separation of parental or with the parents. If they're together, if there's divorce, if a child is being raised by one parent, a single parent, or if any family member in the household is incarcerated, in jail, or anything along that line. So that's where ACEs is more the areas it focuses on.
All right, so real quick, back in the 80s, there was a doctor, Vince Felitti. Remember that name if you guys want to know more about ACEs. He's a medical provider, so he had a patient who was coming in on a regular basis. One of the things that she was concerned about was her weight. Aren't we all? Okay. So she was concerned about her weight. You know, she was gaining weight, she was losing weight, and then one day she came back and she said she had gained weight again. So he was like, okay, what's going on here? You know, why are you gaining the weight back? So she disclosed the late disclosure of sexual abuse. And so when he started doing that, he was saying, okay, you know, big old light bulb went off in his head to say, okay, I wonder how many others are also dealing with things like this. So then in 1998, him and a couple of his colleagues put together the ACEs study, the Adverse Childhood Experiences study. And within that, they asked several questions of all of their patients, and they had about over 17,000 participants in the study. And out of all of those 17,000 participants, I believe like more than half of them had answered yes to one of those adverse childhood experiences. So they developed a scoring system, and within that scoring system, for every adverse childhood experience that you had, you would get a point. So there were a lot of people who at least had 1 point, and some of the study suggests now that if you have at least 3 or more, you know, your likelihood of having health problems in the future were pretty high, pretty significant. And that also contributes to earlier death, or 20 years less of your life expectancy.
Thank you. So some facts and stats. You can go ahead forward. It's not going forward. So some facts is that ACE is very common. So there are 64% of adults in the United States who had at least reported one scoring on that ACE study under the age of 18. So as TJ mentioned, I'll go back to my fact sheet. So for ACEs, it targets 3 areas. So the first one is abuse. So abuse in those categories are emotional, physical, and sexual. Neglect would be emotional or physical neglect. And then household challenges, as I mentioned, domestic violence, substance abuse, mental illness, parental separation or divorce, or incarceration. So as TJ mentioned, in one point or a lifetime, a child can, if a child reaches more than 4 ACE, there are health issues that can occur. Some health risks are levels of lung disease, in adult smoking, multiple suicide attempts, more likely to develop depression, most likely to engage in negative behaviors such as drug abuse, maybe at a young age engage in unprotected sex, or liver disease. So these are some of the areas that ACE can affect. So,
Alrighty, so one of the big things when we brought up this topic with Travis in regards to human growth and development, the big area that we focused on were kids, teenagers, young adults. And the reason for that, we talk about the different types of behaviors that could manifest from this trauma or these adverse childhood experiences that they experienced as children. And one of the things that happens is that our kids are very, very sensitive to continued stress. So basically, it does not only affect them now as they're or affect them as they're kids, it has lifelong implications, meaning that it's going to continue to manifest throughout their lifetime. So that's a big piece for you guys to take away today. So children, again, they're especially sensitive to repeated stress reaction. So within our bodies, we have cortisol, which is our stress response system. That's stuff that's in our gut. So when we are born, whether in any way possible, whether it's through C-section, whether it's through traditional vaginal delivery, when we're born, we're freaked out, right? We're crying when we come out of mom because that was our safe place, that was our home for so long, that once we're born, we're just in this whole totally new environment. So we're scared. Our heart's racing, our breathing is going crazy, we're crying. So that cortisol, that stress response system within us is pumping. And that's fine, right? We need that. That's part of our biology. That's part of how we survive because our whole bodies are made to survive. So within that, moms, dads, whoever, whenever a baby's born, that's why we encourage the skin to skin. That's why we encourage the eye contact. Because what's happening is mom or caretaker, whoever it is being held responsible for regulating that infant, that child, is to stop that cortisol from pumping. It's to relieve that stress response. And that's what we want to do. So again, if any of you guys are taking notes, Nadine Burke-Harris, she's got a TED Talk. It's only 15 minutes long. This is a life changer. This is what changed my life over the last 12 years, and this is how my practice is guided in what I do. So basically, she describes these adverse childhood experiences as a bear. So let's say we're walking in the forest, right? And boom, a bear pops up. What are we going to do? We're going to run. That's a response. What else are we going to do? How many of us are brave enough to fight that bear? Some of us might, right? So what happens in that moment is that our stress response is activated. Our pupils dilate, our sweat glands open up. We're getting ready to fight, or we're getting ready to take off from that bear. That's the correct response. That's what we should be doing. And that cortisol, again, is pumping. It's pumping, because what it's going to do, it's going to give us that energy that we need to fight that bear or run away from that bear. So that's what it's meant for. That's what our bodies are designed for, is survival in those instances. But let's say we're a 5-year-old kid. What's the bear? How many, you guys call them, what do they call, monsters, right? Domestic violence, substance abuse, your parents are fighting, you're getting bullied. All of that stuff is activating that stress response. So that bear, it's wonderful and great when you're out there with that bear. But, when you're at home and you're in a safe place and these things are being activated, it's not healthy. So what happens then is that stress response is developing those chronic diseases later on in life. It's developing those detachments from your caregivers. Because if your parents are the ones fighting, you don't trust them anymore. So every adult that comes into your life, you're not going to trust them. So those are the things that we are looking at, and those are the implications that I wanted to touch on in regards to the human growth and development, because these theories are great, they're wonderful, they make total sense. But we have to look at ACEs, and we have to look at what happens. So one of the big things also, epigenetics is huge. And so epigenetics is basically the difference in the way that our DNA is read. It literally changes our DNA. So then our kids now who have been exposed to trauma or depression, or a parent who's been incarcerated or sexual abuse or assault or anything like that, generations among generations, we're going to be changing. Our epigenetics are going to be changing. The way our DNA is going to be changing. So we're going to be predisposed to these mental health, mental illness conditions. We're going to be predisposed to health outcomes, such as diabetes, heart disease, all of those things. So I've actually fought people in clinics about this, because they would call people who have diabetes, oh, they're lazy, they don't even exercise. Oh, these people just eat junk food. It might be true, but that might be a coping mechanism. But I also honestly totally believe in ACEs. I do believe in historical trauma. I do believe in all of that and having health implications that happen later on in life. And that's where early death, or that's where 20 years of your life is shaved off because of these things. And this is not meant to scare you, or anything like that. It's just meant, to give you that education and awareness. So super important. And all of these things here are all part of developmental stages. It's the way we grow up, because it starts from birth and it goes all the way into our elderhood. And we have so many stages that we go through. We have Freud, we have Piaget, we have Kohlberg, we have Erikson. My favorite is Erikson. So that's the one I decided to focus on today.
So before TJ gets into Erikson, so prevention, right? We're talking about we're talking about information, education, informing you of what ACEs are, what it's about, and prevention would be more of being knowledgeable about it. Like TJ had mentioned, the resource of going into learning more about it and watching. There are videos that gear more towards ACEs and trying to identify what it is. Other is, once with that knowledge, just like everything else, is talking about it, spreading it out with family members, having that communication at the dinner table. That's how I was raised. When we're having conversation, it's always at the dinner table, right? Talking to our kids about it, and then maybe educating people out in the community about ACE scoring. So one way of prevention is being knowledgeable about it, spreading it out with other people, letting them know what ACEs are, and then also providing that safe environment for our kids, whether it's being open with them, having that open dialogue with them as well, So creating that safe space, being stable, nurturing, those type of relationships are a good prevention in reducing ACE study. So I'm gonna give the mic over to TJ. She's gonna go through the steps of Erickson.
You guys messed up really, really bad by giving me the mic. Honestly, I'm just telling you guys that. So I'm gonna stay on my ACEs soapbox for a while. So you guys will find out 2 things about me right now. You guys probably guessed my favorite color, right? Maybe? Okay, I guess we'll keep that one a secret. The second one, like I said, Nadine Burke Harris, freaking awesome woman. I really encourage you and all of you out there to look her up. She's wearing a bright red dress. She gives this awesome, awesome TED Talk. I discovered this back in 2013. So I'm a licensed social worker. So at that time I was still learning. Didn't really know how I was going to be treating patients, how my practice was going to be, until I found this video, because I learned about trauma-informed care, but I learned it through reading about the Holocaust. Little did I know, that translated all the way to here. So, trauma-informed care, trauma-informed responses, that is how I practice. That is how I do the work that I do. And so when I do my assessments, ACEs is always a part of it. I want to know what those adverse childhood experiences, because when I have a child, or if I have an adult, and if I have an elder person in my office, I want to know this stuff. And this is how I provide that trauma-informed care, to be empathetic in all of that, in all of those ways. Because this is going to have health implications. And when I have a patient who's having a difficult time accepting their type 2 diabetes diagnosis, I can share this with them and talk to them about this. So that's super important. Everything that I do in my professional life, as I'm learning, as I'm working, is all about that trauma-informed care, that trauma-informed response. Is to say, okay, these are things that have happened to these people. These are the things that they've experienced it. And a lot of it is just within us. And I recently, a couple years ago, trained in EMDR therapy, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a trauma therapy. And with that, one of the big things that I learned that was important is we have to release all of that stuff that's inside of us, the bad stuff, the negative stuff, the anger, the sadness, all of those things. And one of the things that I also learned is that, because I'm going to be honest with you, I get a lot of flack, I get a lot of pushback from people that say, historical trauma, that's in the past, leave it there. It's not here. And I get that, I understand that, and I know that, but we have to acknowledge that it occurred and that it's manifesting today in our society as substance abuse, as suicide, as domestic violence, as all of these things. So when Tavia was talking about what we can do, is that we have to be aware of it. We have to understand, do we have an ACE score? And how are we being aware of that? How are we being able to address that? And one of the things that I love the most is mindfulness. I do guided imagery, fishing, fly fishing. My family, they're all into fly fishing, and I find that, as an outlet for them. There's people who hunt, there's people who drive. I love music. I listen to music, I lip sync to music all the time. That's what I love to do, and that's my outlet. So again, if you don't take anything away from today's presentation other than, be aware, be mindful of this, please be aware of that. And another thing, trauma is not the event, trauma is not the long walk, trauma is not the vehicle accident, it's not the assault, it's not the abuse. The trauma is your emotional reaction to it. How did you feel when that event happened? That's what the trauma is, and that's what we've got to work through. So and I work with kids. I work a lot with kids. We're also play therapist on our way to becoming registered play therapist. So a lot of this I take into consideration when I'm working with kids. So there's, like I said before, there's a lot of different developmental stages of development. I love Erickson. I think he's an awesome, there's different opinions about him, but this one I understand and I really love. So in Erickson's stages of development, there's 8 stages. There's always an important component to it as to who the support system is. And then there's also, in each one, there's a conflict that's happening. And if the individual is able to develop healthily in that, then they're going to be successful. They're going to be able to go through all of those stages. But should a trauma or a disruption and interruption happen in any of those stages, they're literally stuck in that stage until they can get through it and get past it. So this is why ACEs is important, because if we have a kid who was taken from mom at birth because she tested positive for meth, do they get that eye-to-eye contact? Do they get that skin-to-skin contact? That's important to think about. So infancy is birth to 18 months. It's called trust versus mistrust. And the biggest thing here is feeding. And this is where we get the connection. We get connections of mom and child for the most part. Otherwise, it's going to be caregiver and child. So feeding, a child develops a sense of trust when caregivers provide reliability, care, and affection. But a lack of this will lead to mistrust. So here's where we're developing that for our kiddos, is we're wanting to give them that eye-to-eye contact. We're wanting to be able to regulate their emotions. We want to be there to be physically, emotionally, psychologically present. Anyone have any questions or comments about the first stage? Oh shoot, we have like 8 minutes. Well, probably more. Oh yeah, Tavia did this really nicely for me. Did you? How does it go?
So do you want to go through each?
Yeah, we can go through each. Okay, so again, 0 to 18 months. The crisis is going to be trust versus mistrust. The strength is hope. The maldevelopment is going to be withdrawal. Maldevelopment just means an unhealthy development that occurs if they're not able to get that trust from their parents. So how a child communicates in this stage is that they cry. Babies cry when their diapers are dirty. Babies cry when they're hungry. Is the parent, is the caregiver attending to those needs? Are the needs being met? So that's a big piece in this developmental stage. Number 2, stage 2 is early childhood, 18 months to 3 years, autonomy versus shame and doubt. The strength is will. The maldevelopment's going to be compulsion. So basically, how I understand this is when a child is potty trained. That gives them the confidence. They can say, oh, I can do this. They know how to release that stuff on their own. They don't need someone else to do it for them. So that's what stage 2 is. And then do they get the support in that also? And are they encouraged? How many of you cheered your babies on when they peed in the toilet? I did. Yeah, awesome. So then that gives them that confidence to say, this is a good thing. This is what I need to do. Stage 3, age 3 to 5 years old, the crisis is initiative versus guilt. The strength is purpose, and then the maldevelopment's going to be inhibitions. So again, are we encouraging creativity? Are we encouraging independence? Are we allowing them to go and do the things that they need to do? If they bring home a drawing, you don't even know what the heck it is, but they tell you it's a fire truck, you say, heck yeah, that's the best fire truck I've ever seen in my life, right? So that's, again, in preschool, we're helping them to develop in those ways and ages. School age 6 to 11 years. The crisis is industry versus inferiority, competence. The maldevelopment's going to be inertia. So an example is when a child completes a homework assignment. Does the adult praise or ridicule the effort? I don't know what I did there. So this one, when I think about this, I think about, the Canalda and the sweat lodge and all of that stuff. Do we encourage that development? Do we strengthen that? Do we build upon that? Are we encouraging that growth and that independence in their lives? And adolescence, the crisis is identity versus identity confusion. The strength is fidelity. And then the maldevelopment is reodiation. What does that mean, Tavia? I'm sorry, I'm not that smart, guys. Okay, so does a teenager have the opportunity to try a variety of clubs, sports, or peer group? Parents encouraging exploration or conformity. So are we, again, these are when our kids are meeting that young adulthood. They're going into being their own person. Who are they? Are they developing their identity? Are they being told who they are? Are they exploring their interests? Identity confusion is when we sit and say, I don't know who I am. And a lot of the times that's where those maladaptive coping skills come in the self-harm, the thoughts of suicide, or even those passive death wishes to say, I don't know who I am. I don't know what happened there. Okay, young adulthood. All of us went through this, right? Oh my God, that guy looks so cute. Oh, she's so pretty. Or vice versa, however that goes. The crisis is going to be intimacy versus isolation. Holy cow, look at this stage, 19 to 40 years old. Still in our 40s, we're looking for love, right? We're looking for someone to love us and take care of us and be intimate with us. So the strength is love. The maldevelopment is going to be exclusivity. We're going to isolate. We're not going to have anyone. We're going to be alone. So whether or not the adult can sacrifice their own needs or past relationships to form closer relationships and friendships. So this is a time when we have those supports of being with someone, someone that's going to be there for us, whether it's in an intimate romantic relationship, if it's going to be in a friendship, if it's going to be in work relationships. So within the developmental stages, the earlier ones, we need to make sure that we form those attachments, that we have trust with adults, that we have trust within ourselves and we know who we are. That's the only way we get to these stages here. Middle age, this is talking to me right now. Okay, so it's going to be generativity versus stagnation. The strength is care. The maldevelopment is going to be projectivity. So with this one, are we giving back to our communities? Are we giving back to our families? That's how I understand this here, is we're either sharing our knowledge, we're giving back, or we're being stingy with it and we're just stuck in where we're at. We're not moving forward. We're not doing the things that we should be doing in this stage. So this is stage 7. And then the last one is going to be maturity. It's our elderhood. It's our age 65 to the time people pass on. The crisis is going to be ego integrity versus despair. The strength is wisdom. The maldevelopment is going to be disdain. You're just dissatisfied. So the way that I understood this, because unbeknownst to many of you, I started my college career here. And I took Mr. Avery Denny and Dr. Wilson Aranla's class. And so one of the big things that I took away was that NNIS philosophy. And then that last one, where you go back and you reflect. And that's how I do my treatment plans as well, is we look back, we reflect, okay, what did we do, what did we not do, what could we have improved on? And that's how I look at this stage, the last stage of Erickson's developmental stages, is, are we satisfied with how we lived our life? Are we satisfied with what we did, what we accomplished? Are we happy with it? Otherwise, you're in disdain. You're not satisfied with it. And that goes all the way into all of those other beginning stages. So that's how I understand Erikson. And again, it's called arrested development. If we don't go through those stages as we should, if we don't get those needs met in stages 1 through 7, we won't be able to be satisfied here in stage 8. All righty, well, again, like I said, there's more developmental stages that you can go through. Very, very interesting. If you are, go sign up for some social work classes. And I think you guys have a social work program, and I'll gladly work for you guys. If someone would email me back. Just kidding. I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding. But I think that's it. That's it for us now. What was that? Oh, does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? We are here for a little bit. I don't know if I rushed through that. Yes, sir. The ACEs can start from the time you're born or even when you're in the room. The screening tools, again, it can go from the time you're in the womb. They can ask the mom while she's pregnant.
That's what we use for mental health.
Yeah. So it's very simple. It's just a quick survey. So one of the things that we did, because we did research on infants, and when they actually had the ultrasound tech have the, oh my gosh, the ultrasound thingy on the mom's belly, and they had glass breaking, and then they had the dad yelling in a loud voice, and even in the womb, baby was startled, and baby was, shaken up in there. So, I would say it goes all the way to, even when they're in utero in the womb.
So the ACEs screening tool, you're able to come up with a diagnosis?
No, that doesn't diagnose. That just informs you of what these people have experienced, if they've been through trauma or if there's things that are currently happening or stuff that happened in their childhood. So then that helps you to basically understand that, this might be where it's leading to. Like if they have diabetes, if they have heart disease or any of those things. So it makes you understand that better.
We have, how we have the Generation X, the millennials, and the baby boomers, some of these population groups, they fit right into this,
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
There's no way around it,
Yeah. They've experienced it. We have people that have grown up in the boarding school. We have people who are homeless. We have people who were removed from their homes. We have parents who were incarcerated or passed away. So all of these just helps us to better understand, okay, well, these things can lead to these things. So how do we get in there? How do we help them? So again, with these developmental stages, like for me, like I tell you, I'm a play therapist, but I'm also a clinician. I work with kids. So what do? Sometimes they're in those arrested development. So even if in infancy, if they weren't fed or if they didn't eat or if mom didn't do that hand-to-hand contact, I have interventions like lotion on hands where we're touching each other's hand and it's building trust with that kid. Or I'm going to have snacks and water in my office so a kid knows that when they're coming to see me, they're going to have snacks and water. They don't have to worry about those things. And then we train parents in doing those things as well. So it all goes back to all of those things. And this is just one one theory there. We've got Freud and Piaget, we have Kohlberg, we even have a feminist one who focuses only on women's development as they grow older. So we have a lot. We have a lot. Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for your question. Oh my God, I fell out of breath. Anyone have questions out here? Someone said thank you. Oh, is that you? I don't know if I can read that one out loud. I'm just kidding. All right, guys, tip your waiter on the way out. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, TJ. We have a traditional practitioner from Navajo Nation Department of Behavior and Mental Health Services. We'll go ahead and have him come up and introduce himself while I sit up here. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in, and we're going to go ahead and get started here again. I'll go ahead and have him introduce himself. And then again, I'm going to go ahead and leave the QR code link inside the chat box. Thank you very much.
Traditional group. Yeah, let's go. Ayun zade in Khania. The way could Abiyadel. That is an Hutsa, though none Ahutsa hold gay ad in Khania. Additionally, Mr. Teller is a kiss. Later. She kissed need that through ceremonies. What I don't could Rego Adolescence could you go Winter Rock Archie shot. They're having another summit over there today and tomorrow, so I'm presenting over there tomorrow. But Kilachini Diné Cultural Ado Sena Jenny do Dash Chini Clash Chito. It's an business educated. Ado to the Chini do okay. Ado to the Conjudo be between it's that. Ado should say it had a Chini, Kagi. It should say that. Ado Sedesh nido look but nido Hash nido Tohana is another that would the Nansleho Ado I reside way out there. Would on the other side of the Navajo Nation border. My family's out there. I'm a practitioner, a chanter for the Navajo Nation and IHS and 638 programs, federal programs. Although I'm a professional consultant for BIE schools and all the schools and treatment centers and so forth. I do ceremonies on weekends and weeknights. While my brother is trying to locate my presentation. No, that's not it. Traditional growth. I have a lot of presentations on my whatever you call that. So I do a lot of things every day. My presentation here is very basic. I'm a member of the Diné Cultural Association. a member of the Society of Indian Psychologists and Counselors. I'm retired from the military. It's good to be here. I enjoy being among people. My children are my children are all adults now. They're all men now. I was here with Mr. Rex Lee Jim at one time, Navajo Sovereignty Institute. We were able to compile some information to do a booklet. The Philosophy Institute. So developed several curriculums. I enjoy giving information, and I enjoy a lot of things being among people. Attention. Go all the way down to T. Somewhere right here, traditional birth. It's either. Yeah, that's it right there. It's either ati what either. So, like I said, very basic here. Shikedo should ne. That is not tagido. What na hizo tanigi. The neck o chito. No say the growth and development. The nenigi. We like to be unique. We like to be different. That's my child's drawing on that side. My oldest son, Head Start. So, like I said, I'll give a lot of information. Our philosophy, our culture, our ways of doing things, and our information is empirical. It's empirical philosophy. We actually experience what we talk about, and we actually live through what we talk about. Ado anoselto ado sabada huist igishi beninanigi the neck habakagi nehin hit so the zenigi ebikaho ochil. That's what we believe. Ado nehidi nenigi ebikaho no zelto nehidi nenigi nehit so the zenslahagi ebikaho sabada huist ido somebody na ilte so even nago pictures are. I use a lot of illustrations and I use a lot of pictures. You see that and you give meaning to that. It might mean something to you or it might not. That's your choice. How do you move forward? Oh, I knew that. I have to touch. How about that? Can you guys do that? So you or you say Hayolka, they Western Agency, Hayolka is Hayolka. So the birth of changing woman, or you say discovery. The discovery of the changing woman. So, changing woman was discovered on top of Gubernador Nan, George Ebekat and Lade. She just to get us going. And let George Adachas Ad, Atseho one hold ligade, not down you die a hold ligade. Ada she says he don't says no she ada dahi no ke da hat ido aden da hat le aden jde so she gut kwege jod I bekage lille kho she hon lille bekho gut kros ja krosil se hoda go sho nikho holtkila sho ade holtkil. So that idea, she the first man, first woman says he don't say so yiltsan that it gave off a particular energy. Oh you got ben oh you had she was sin. Oh you had da skido had he was do oh you all the enjolis legi she lek out. She even in she ad he achadat anle what needy she became coachnia she that's where she was discovered. She was raised by first man and first woman at the base of the mountain. It quetch old edo zitlau deli quechas anigishi question jitelo quekeda hazit oshi quebi yaho. She reached puberty within 12 days of her birth. After she was discovered on top of Gubernador Knob. Danadlia. Dinesha Deditza. Okay. Danadlia. Ado Danadliado. Ya. Ko Tranaschin. Ado Tobias. Do Nansepet. Do Nansepet. Do. What that? Diné Cultural. She was nurtured, although she was nourished by that. Nakitsata his kaja. Aj kinalta yansa. Aj kinasta. She digin kahna al tehigi benina ehuta. Nakitsata his kaja. Aj yansa. Yansa do talking God. Hasheltki. But she arts couldn't get she. Craig she canal towel yagi as would ye bat get in. Ye bat get in. Got dean trados what. Would be Ahosen. Adot Hidis Kanigi she met the spirit of the sun thereafter. Hidis Kado begot this Kado. I don't know Rasli, don't know who it as the Aginad out of curiosity. That was out of curiosity. Johna Yilachait Asdo Yilachaske. What's that? Ado Yilachaske to the Hadil Zizigi, ya. Nakis chain. 20 warriors came to be. Nakis chain, she would up at this chain. Would Eddie Quet, Ochet Anago, Eddie. Ochet Anago. Biyagi Nashagi. Or el kitigi and le kuje dog or sleet a beninu wet down a craig ado il kidne ze schleho ze del now ad il kidne would and then we'll go forward. Okay, so now get into twin warriors. Twin warriors are representatives of Navajo ceremonies due to their significance to life. Nakishin busy hollow. Kaditje bahonitsana negate na yet nezranolga, negate hopachanolia. Nlebelata negate silkat or kittelnaholga, negate silkat on den dahi. Because Monster Slayer was always ahead of the younger one. Even the Monster Slayer, the one that never gets tired, keeps following his brother. So, the representative of Navajo ceremonies. Majority of the Navajo ceremonies that we have today, twin warriors are representative of that in those ceremonies. So is white shell woman and changing woman. So is the spirit of the sun and the moon. Twin warriors reach puberty within 12 days. Again, but is chido, na kits at his kaj, kina dayana aj, yansa. Ado bat yot eat. Talking God takes them to all the sacred mountains. But say, the hen so keda had andre. But don't need to ship di age. But so keda di age. And let's it rade, not jinn, because de. I don't set na. With eat day and let's hold this. I don't set na and let dog go asleep. I don't set na the bensa. I don't set na the loud dilly. I don't set na the old. I don't learn it because dog with lay would get naturally. It's a preparation for their manhood. So certain tests were done at these particular mountains. Nchido, Twasakazdo, Yasto Tkin. She would Yenen Tako, Yenen Tkingo. It went all the way around. How long it took is through timeline, would be through a spiritual time. Oti Yinek, Ahoshi, Ho Nishiki, O Ho Nishiki, O Ho Jishiki, Eshibiko, Kodeno Saligido, Kodebitzi, Lehigishi, Ebik Ahoshi. It was measured based on that. They didn't have no measuring tools, or they didn't have a calendar or anything. Ebik Kodet, Ahegi, Haudness, Lane, Kodje. Dog or sleep, they're able to withstand the air. They're able to withstand how far they walk and how far they can climb, and they're able to withstand any encounters of unknown energy or vicious animals. They will mature. So that's how they measure things. Oh, the next, but see, oh, that's an older person, you know. So Ebony Nago, so as she went out, they went all the way around it. They came back down. As they came back down, Trache with Yagi, Trache Yayat eat, Trache Yinnet, a sweat bath, not a sweat lodge, but a sweat bath. Trachehi Yinel do I don't the Dika don't tea, Quaggy is a Neligi at all. Huda a shisha at Kido Shika. Would on us jaggy, Quaggy. So Ehuda at Kido ka a DJ Le Quidja a Adolescence. Didi ski, ado ade not quaggy a carlo. A skido car, cujido out and raid a ski hullo, ado a epica hullo, cujido nana a skido car, ado cujido a skido car hullo. A cudia a skido car, a hash a ski la cujis. A ski is ski. A king is Titoado, ad Yahide Trado, Agilado, ad Yidit, which is indeed a cat a nos in Ebikashi, a Adoinakishin ad Ebikashi, Cado ski, a Hazli, a Yilado, Adoy, ye none, or done, because they're still young. Or done, and they got a lenta, Jegi. That lent that shagido, that lent and jigido, that lent a kigido, that lent that legish, a would actually ye, is not nego, and they said that city that egg, a would a ye na now, ye os, a would a ye os, So through this time, from the day they came into this world, they learn survival skills. The reason why they were born is to deplete the monsters. And then to deplete the entire monsters At that time, yet oh hayu, yet so ya, yet so lana, Eutashi, Hago ati, Ado et Krishinda, Kritsa Hosiltra, Ado et Shashna Kado, Ado that gave was so the ten Nahaleto, Ado look at the Gistoche, she would have said Asha, Ado eut anda, Eyashina, ye Eyashi, began sil, Deoshi, Euta e Yebetish. Euta. Nashinana. Let's move forward. So, stages of life is what we're talking about today. You know, coming off of the two slides, it's a foundation of stages of life. Although it's a direction of stages of life. Stages of life in translation would be no seh. But Ghana, stages of life. The netiko bikeho no seh. Ashabikeho no sehligishi. Quaggy. Would le hard she. But our understanding of duality. But male and female principle. Would also lahagi. It's ado would chilo le what don't need. It says he will get the first man determined at one time said Kodola which chilo. Didn't need teach it atosha neta. Would that which chil. Adosha on the flip side. These are unwritten laws. When you have sexual intercourse, from that time of the sexual intercourse, from that time to time of conception, it needs sand. It needs sand. Just based on time, based on feelings, based on stages of life, based on spirituality, based on sacredness. It needs sand. Is not taken lightly. It's something that is very, very serious, something that is very, very sacred. Today, the federal government, what we just heard earlier, the federal government, surrounding children, surrounding unborn children, surrounding infants, growth and development. Even in our conception, in our lifestyle, conception in our society is very important. Very important. It needs on. That's the first stage of life that this unborn child, the embryo or the fetus, is birth. That's the second stage of life. So timeline from here to here, and we all know that. In the conception, though it didn't say, in the Bakagi, Bikeho no say, Bikeho means it's our guide. No say is the growth and development. No say the Bikeho no say, Bikeho ne say, Bikeho da no say, Bikeho danil ze. So, no is the actual child coming into this world. When that child comes out of the mother's womb, when that child comes out of the mother's cervix, he is so another important aspect in our livelihoods, in our lifestyles. Because it's sacred. A lot of our younger parents, a lot of our younger children, growing children, even a lot of the adults, they tend to ridicule that. They tend to make jokes out of this. Because Anita Batch is the logo. I do Hadia the she, had ishi, what the dots in. Had ishi, we don't say. Because they need that. They're going to take that information and lay down somewhere down the road. They're going to set it right in front of you. Sure enough, you're going to walk into that. What you walk into that is your own information. Those type of things. Even in that, the neck, but Ghana, I know what goes around comes around. I don't know what that means. The neck, dehydration laden, Dahni do ah. Codin not on Bahas, no. Because the deal, Catosa, I did Clato Ardent and a huit nado. Ardent and a huit nago, crash or hey, crack or hot. That's a way hot at the no. A way of Lanard goes on day show. And your next door neighbor is doing it to you. You know, you pay all that money. So, where's it on? So, I don't know how the concept of puberty, male and female, so timeline, could only conception through birth and through puberty. Hashinzago behaza, Hashinzago yenahasa, Hashinzago hanedanti, Hashinza hanebetaditi, Hashinzago betsodezendahalo, Hashinzago sinbadanti, Nasko just ahoyani le adulthood. Ehuyani le ado old age, sabahunti. Ad and zonagoji, sabachera. That's the idea. Live as long as you want. Tell your children to live as long as they can. It's even the IHS Navajo wellness model. So these are the stages that I know of. So my son in the sunset gives you again the could you has only Ado shada ato na hukos. Ado kwene ekane snido kuja sni kwehaza. Et a kwegi de ya ben hodne. E kwegi biya pik et ye do e hayos kasndel do. Ado kwene hode tlisndel do. No hot su no chahkel kwegi ye wil jishigi benige sus na jenenil ya do tsotse. Do go sleep the bench on the now that it's all now it's his lago, Shabbat all his lago, ne snake echo del second halia. You cannot go wrong. But today we tend to take for granted what we have. I guess that's why we're here today. Our children, grandchildren that are going to be born into this world. I think that's why we're here. So they could be okay. So Evan, go to the next slide. So conception, it needs sound. I'm not an artist, but my brother, he's an artist. Illustrations or paintings or whatever. So conception, it needs sound. It needs sound. Gender is believed to be based on moon cycle. O J Gatigi, Ebic or Chill. I don't Ebic Nahaga. A good moon cycle, Craig and let the Nate Kingi. We have female and male, but Adi Dobaka. Could and they could the Nate Kingi. The heat go did out. It goes to zone the Hido King. Don't edit out, he didn't count the Hido King. So our understanding about everything is male and female. Because I did out the heat go. If you should conceive a child after this crescent, it's a male crescent. If you conceive a child after that, we believe that a boy will be born. Did out is cado bekedo go away has ling go edo lech. She would ya hunzen. Would skido she would childe cadedo to moon de only when we bark at the moon on Friday nights. That's the only time, right? They would end Cadena Tahit can get over Calda. Odo needs either only the old Ocha has get not less on the Kahana Naso Dane Kihan must. Who cares? You know, whatever, you know. Oh, what on Hachinika. Even in we see a lot of disorder. We see a lot of dysfunction because of that. So if we begin to look at the moon and kind of go along that use it as our guide, maybe things will be different. That's what I think. So, believed on the moon cycle, fetus and the embryo begins development after that conception. Physical growth, mental growth, social growth, emotional growth, and spiritual growth continues. It's initiated. It ano sel. Observances are very, very important in Navajo ceremonies, Navajo lifestyle, Navajo ways of doing things, Navajo ways. Observances are very, very important. I believe that's true. So observance for the mother and the father is very important. They're not considered, in our culture, they're not considered taboos. It's something that we live according to. So when it's something that we live according to, it's not a taboo. It's a sacredness, it's a serenity and being sincere about things. When the mother has the child in their womb, the father is also pregnant. Even in night, was this son. Was this son. Certain places you're not allowed to go. Certain functions that you're not to participate. So, certain food you're not supposed to partake of. And so forth. There are certain parts of the Hogan you're not allowed to stand. There are certain parts of the ceremonies you're not allowed to tie knots. You're not allowed to do a lot of things. But because of the baby, children get natural born. So today we see a lot of children that are induced. On lady had a nil che. I thought I was ready, on lady ahead. So I carried on, they're overdue because of weight. I don't have to go to the car. I got eggy, so a craggy. We want natural birth. Oh, chilligi through your cervix. Abe oh chilligi she would in Khanilia. So evening observance is not just during this time. Observance is every day of our lives. Which Kadi Kwen I see Khanigi de hotels and Hullo. Beninanige Bahanegi, Benina, hotels and Hullo. With the ice, don't lay there, she thought the Hudson. So, prenatal stage is very sensitive to the unborn child and the parents. Prenatal stage, lay conception, though, ado tran de zit, nast end de zit, she bekeho. And let the net kingi. Let because he try ado the hadil jiji had no pass. Had no pass so ado the na hadil jiji the nane do tin ado et na hadil jiji hanada no pass. The na hadil jiji the nane do tin the na hadil jiji the hanada no pass. The na hadil jiji the nane do tin hanada no pass and so on. But today it seems to be cumbersome. We want to do something, you know. We want to go somewhere. We want to do this. We want to participate in ceremonies. Without that's all. It builds patience. Patience. Confidence. Without Bahudilzen, Khadahus Dilzen, Tadjelt ego. Khadahus Dilzen. Away Bahus Dissin go. In return, Echa Dissin. Do Bahus Dissin go. En Lade. Ish Etigete, Naho Tras. Do Ha Dissenda. Beninange do Bahus Dissenda. Craggy sheep, Eshibe Edahusen. Ado blessing away ceremony. Like I said, 3 months, 6 months. And you're able to see hair, fingernails, toenails, and so forth. الكدا داشت إنده وزوج واليهجي وزوج بتج an introductory ceremony, an introductory blessing with ceremony for the unborn child and the mother and the father. Would then hitsui bohonne hotelin ade dole ebinina. Banat today, a lot of our children didn't have that. A lot of our children didn't have that. Number one is cost today. Today, number one to have a ceremony done is the cost. Hun shailen de do jin de do chung illa. Eshibin na do yon ha gach da yo ida dna. Would a huzun would be jid kushi bahilla. Na yej na ha gad kushi bahilla. I don't want to then jid hat khal don't le hut chung jid hat kha the kushi ba da hilla. I do material things that hegi. She would even in the blessing away ceremony is very, very important. It's imperative. Would Zonende, would Ado Naskol, Jishigi, Ada has transit the Mother and father should maintain a positive attitude Regardless, we should maintain a positive attitude. Nihin sakhesto, nihin net, nihitje, nahan, gilzolgo inilzen. Gilzolgo inilzen. Abe in nanigi it be channa jilno. Would kuje. Amado ze. Would betrage. Betrado no sel. Would given in na. Would go forward. Next one. This one is my illustration. Look at it, check it out, and tell me what it means. Tell yourself what it means. What do you suppose it means? Nan says case igido da shana not igido shanan this not igido say not iodo let's understand the hot shago epic ado could the shalho nishigi na ben shigi sagat and tenidot hin lebe drat na ben shigi epic honal sauce we can have snail shashin to that so birth is there's no doubt in our minds that birth is here. Birth takes place. It's a physical thing. It happens in our physical lives. Birth takes place by 9 months based on prenatal development. Very important that we say that prenatal development based on that. That's what I mean based on prenatal development. Reference to health and well-being, reference to spiritual health, reference to mental health, reference to emotional health, reference to social health, reference to our surrounding, reference to where we go, reference to what we participate in, reference to what we eat. Physical beings. Because we don't have the power that they have. We don't have the energy that they have. Earlier I talked about stages. So, prenatal development is very important. Baby's introduction to the physical world. That's an introduction. They come into this world. So this story that we talk about today, we go back, we have highlights in our history. We have highlights in our stories. People always say, 1868, 1864, timeline. I'm talking somewhere way back there, not today. This story, this philosophy, this concept, it's not a theory. It is not a theory. It's an empirical philosophy. Earlier I talked about that because we experienced this philosophy. Therefore, we made this philosophy. That makes it empirical philosophy. Ashit aho one be yet, aho one niki, abi yet ho one niki she, would abi yet o chill, ho one the mother. Even now, when you see in the inside of Hogan, there's a beam, there's a particular beam that runs across from south to west right here on the western end of the Hogan. Is there for a reason. It's utilized during birthing processes. You don't see that in here. You know, they had midwives. Midwives, a mayaj, a masana, they're midwives. Away hatayin. Midwives were able to bring children into this world without any screening tools, without any medical tools, without any tool. They used traditional tools. I'm talking way back there. I was born at home. Baby's first cry was encouraged. That's what the midwife would look for. Whatever mucus is inside, that's why you allow the child to cry and cry and cry, so the lungs and the heart will get strong. So even the first cry was encouraged. It's very important that we hear something out of the child, the infant. But ek yes. But ek yes. Had ishi yenda il yes. Sas yo de nisle baho ya. Eshin sas zibe. It a yes de. Eshin uda zet londa. They in the halchen but the chico scissor holik ya. The way of taking care. Zera she betracht skizoha she questions wiltatolne would not say that yes she's alchen that would say that hakis as nothing that is she's alchen skile in ashkhahan nina would so umbilical cord cutting would gisto ado but say hard she would say body cons it's a gisto ado yashe get out of now the nails. Say and lego kuchigo. Article day, ya. Article honey, lay the cut yas, tot that the bear run, tot that says it has, tot that I had eat yada hot, did it on that then keep a cow. She a yasena that she's ni Nikiki cheat ni sani khagi. Grad bahat kis jilkha grad bigon jilkha daninde tlad tlajit edon edan lingido de berga jilkha libra jilkha ses tragon jilkha daninde had de mitnahni she would would ado mother and the baby express their deep kinship. Ado beno sonna will yehegi. Would actually yekeh. The actual greeting, you know, yad esha which yad say niya. Yad esh so yad nchenia. Queen gedo le. They used to have a name for them. Right then and there. Based on their character and based on their personality, those type of things. Based on your personality. You carry that name. That's a Hogan name. You carry that name as well. Placenta. How much time do I have, brother? I have to get to over the ridge to Window Rock. 15 minutes? 10 minutes? Okay. So, did energy I don't lay the Massan in Niche in Rastuida Nene Hanet in Lahan she became Hanet and go to the next one. I don't know that there's kind of whatever that illustration meant. Hayet and I don't did you guys analyze that illustration? Growth and development, no say. Cleansing by midwife. Midwife. Does anybody know out there in the world, in the virtual world, how do you say midwife in Navajo? Cleansing by midwife, molding baby's head with fire. So back then they had a fire here. It's an introduction to their ancestors and their grandfather and their grandmother. It's an introduction. That's part of a ritual that Navajos do. We should continue to do that. We should continue to do what's here. Continue to do that. Some hospitals on Navajo, like IHS, some of them are doing that. Some of the hospitals around Navajo, they have hogans. Although they have traditional items in the birthing rooms. So we should continue that. We're encouraged to continue that. Today, the federal government encourages us to learn Navajo. How about that? The federal government said, learn Navajo if you're Navajo. Learn Navajo culture if you're Navajo. A long time ago, we didn't have to. Nobody ever told us learn Navajo because we grew up in it. Even though we didn't have to learn. We didn't have to go to school for it. I didn't sit in class to learn my own language, or my own culture. Nobody out of my home said, that's sacred mountain. No one. I wasn't allowed. Only my grandparents. Only my own people would instruct me that. Then some foreigner, some guy came from another home and said, hey, this is this. That deters us away from what's here at our home. They said, oh, my uncle, no, I want to follow that guy. Our children are doing that because it's not taught at home. I'm going to follow that guy. He's got a good bun, I'm going to follow that guy. He's got better songs. But yet we have relatives over here that are medicine people. We go away. So we really have to be careful. So when I do my presentations, I go round and round, not just about my topic, about reality, about what's real. Because I take sincerely what I talk about. Longevity. So, naming is Quebet is chon at Ayaza, Quebet is chon, Kia, called Ligedole. You know what? Our grandfathers, grandmothers, they were very intuitive. They're very, very smart. The intellect was there. The intelligence was there. We had Shagido, Naniki based on that. Queen Ligedo. Zabat Zili in Ligedo. Ashkin Tolly Ligedo. You know? Who thinks of these things nowadays? You know, I don't even know what they call me when I came out, because I came out at home. You know, but later on they said, hey, Queen Liga. Queen Liga. So naming is very important. Naming is very important. It's how your environment, how the atmosphere is going to know this child. If this child should get into a bind somewhere, all you have to do is utter their names. Even not. That's why we have names. It's our seal. So cradle board, awaits on is very important. I talked about the discovery of the white shell baby. Awaits on bahaneshi, that is igishi. A lilek awaits on, just through image, just through visualization. That's what we carry on today. So we're all encouraged to carry on that cradle board, Navajo cradle board. Cradle board, you know, the significances of, you know, giving birth. If the tools and the elements, the components, if they're not there, traditionally, then we're born into, you know, a hybrid type of lifestyle, which is common today. When you're born at IHS, because in IHS people die, our children are born on top of that. We really have to consider that. I talk about disorders. I talk about dysfunctions. I talk about substance use. I talked about mental disorders. You know, we have a lot of children with autism. You know, I'm on the advisory board at NAU regarding children with autism. Continuing to research that. So Monday I'm at NAU. I'm going to talk about disabilities in Navajo to all the professionals. So everybody's trying so hard to, you know, analyze things and you know, what do you think as a medicine man? Tell us. You know, there's always the question, what do the Navajos think? What do the community members, what do they think? So government is allowing us to participate in those researches, in those studies. So, see, I talk about everything. I don't want to first laugh as they begin to grow. Now, Another ritual that takes place there. First word, Chatzi. Another ritual, first step, there's rituals. I don't want that a child grows and is nurtured and nourished accordingly. Accordingly, because I said that, because every family, they nourish and they nurture their child based on their grandmother. But masana, but show that so I use a lot of pictures. I like pictures because when I tell a story, when I teach a class, or when I do a group session, or when I do training, I put pictures in there. I do that for a reason. I put illustrations, but in my curriculum there's no pictures. There's no pictures in there. It's just nothing but words. So go to the next one. Whoever you are, wherever you are. So the Zen is very important. So the Zen is very important. So the Zen is uttered, should be uttered every day. How you pray is up to you. How you process your prayers is very important, because your family will process your prayers according to that. Just to kick off your prayer. Just to kick it off. And then from there, you can just go downtown with it. Break it down. You know what I mean? So this is how much, this is like an hour's worth of presentation. The presentation continues, yeah. You get to puberty. You get to adulthood. You get to old age. And then whatever it is connected to, nature, universe, ceremonies, prayers, and chant. So this is how much I wanted to share with you guys, because it might be too much information. Oh, you the never could just neko. You can't. Oh, yes, it's on. I don't get it hard. How is she doing this? Oh, I had to do yesterday. You know, those type of things. You know, so Ebony Naga, it's very important. You know, I take this very serious. Tomorrow at Navajo Nation Museum, it's going to be live stream on Facebook. So if you click it on Facebook, you know, I'll be there. I start at 9:45 or something like that. I'm going to talk about roles of traditional practices in behavioral and mental health, how I incorporate services. And then Monday, I'm at NAU. Friday, I'm at Twin Arrows. Not for gambling, but they're having a conference. I'm invited to a conference, so I'll be speaking there too. But I'll try to gamble, see what I can do, because I have to pay my bills. Let's go to the next one, see what it says. It went away. Okay, yeah. Yeah. So that concludes our presentation for today, guys. Brother, that he catch what stuff. So thank you for your time, guys. All you guys out there, appreciate your time, appreciate your attention. It's me, relative, close relative. Good to see all of you. I don't know who's going to turn it off. Appreciate your time.